Hi everyone, we've actually got the fence fixed. Doesn't that look a lot better? So all I have to do now is put everything back onto the patio where I put it onto the lawn to get it out of the way for the fencing contractor. But I need to put my new cover on the greenhouse. Now the poor thing has been falling to pieces quite rapidly now. I tried to stick everything with the tape, and the leaks at the top, they've held really well, but it obviously didn't want to stick to the zip, and it's torn down slightest breeze and it's gone a bit further. So what I need to do now is just empty the plants out, take the old cover off, and then start putting the new one on. I've taken the old cover off and I just want to check that the joints are still solid, because what happened before, we had a really bad storm and the whole structure was shaking so much that it just fell down like a house of cards into a crumbled heap at the floor. So the reason for these pieces of string are just to tie the frame together to make it a much more solid structure. So it might not look that pretty, but it does have a purpose. The strings are not that tight, but they're tight enough that they just hold everything in place. And then what I've done is just tied a string all the way around, looped it around the corners and back to the front here. And then up this top piece, I've got a string tied on this support here, right the way across to the back. So what I'm trying to do is just make everything as solid as possible, and I've also tied the shelves in place to the frame, so that makes all this a lot more solid. So let's just go around and check the joints, make sure the strings don't need tightening, and then we're ready to start putting the new cover on. What I've also done is tied between the rails at the bottom. This was actually an old washing line, but any sort of rope or string would help. So it's making kind of a false floor, which you'll see why that's important when I get it in position. This is the new cover that I've bought. It's heavy duty reinforced cover, so hopefully that won't split as much as the old one. To make this easier to get the cover onto the frame, I've laid it flat on the lawn. Then what I'm going to do is just open the zips of the doorway, do the same with the other side, and then what I'm going to do is just lift the door section up and over so it's out of the way, and just leave it like that for the minute. So then what I can do is just lay the frame down and it'll be put into the cover without any hassle, hopefully. Doing it this way is so much easier than trying to get it up and over. So if you just lay it down, put it onto the cover, and then ease it round, and then the whole frame can be stood up and just put it down over the frame. There we are. That was nice and easy, and it can just be gently pulled into place on the corners. And you have the new cover on. Now what I need to do is just go inside now. It has these little ties for securing the cover to the frame, so I should go around and anchor those. I've secured that in place with the ties, and I've also been taking off the ties from last year when we first got the greenhouse. Now what happened first was we had a storm with so much wind and it ripped the cover off but left these ties onto the frame. So this is where the next step comes in, which I've found is really important. Now, I've found this helps really a lot. I've got my piece of rope and I've tied it onto one of these supports at the bottom, and I'm going to wrap it all the way round, tuck in these ends under like that. So what I'm going to do with the rope is just go up the side, right over the top, and then back down the other side. So we've kind of wrapped it all the way around, and when you get back to the bottom, tuck that under as well. Now this rope is long enough to go around 3 times, so I should get that done. I've finished wrapping the rope around, and as you can see the rope is 3 lengths going up the side, over the top, down the other side, and back around to the bottom. Now those pieces of rope along the bottom will actually serve another purpose, so I'll show you that in a minute. But what I need to do now is tie another piece of rope around the top. Now I need to make sure this is above the door so that can still be tied open, but it's going to go round and wrap around the top and tie at the back. But I'm going to loop under each of these pieces. That will just help to keep it in place. Right, I've put the top piece just on the sides there. All I've done is just looped that around just to secure it, and the same on the other side. So all I need to do now is turn the greenhouse up, and then when I tie the rope together at the back, it will tighten everything up. I've put the greenhouse in position. The rope at the back is tied to secure it, and then what I have down here at the bottom on the floor is this large stone which I've tied the rope around. Now this is the reason for the piece of rope around the top of the greenhouse. So what I'm going to do is just tie it to the top, and then that will act as an anchor. There we are at the back of the greenhouse. We have the rope going down to the stone, so it's on the floor, it's not actually suspended off the floor, but it's taut enough that it's just going to hold it down with the wind. So now I'm going to show you inside. Now I have another stone here, which I've tied the rope around again, and all I'm going to do now is tie it onto this support here. So we've got a stone on the outside and one on the inside, so that'll anchor the back of the greenhouse down. Now I've tucked all the edges of the new cover underneath. But with all this webbing that we've made here and the rope, it does cause a trip hazard. So easy to get your foot caught under some of this. So what I've done, I've found an old piece of wood just to put over the top. I've just put the piece of wood just across the webbing, just to make it a little bit safer. It doesn't really matter about the side pieces because I'm not going to step on those, and it adds a little bit more weight to the ropes at the bottom. I mean, that is another reason why the ropes are underneath as well, because the more weight we can put on there, the more secure it's going to be. And in the winter, the sides are going to have pots overwintering, so it's all going to add more weight to the bottom of the greenhouse. So hopefully I'm winter ready, but for now it's only August, so I'm going to put the tomatoes and cucumbers back in. See you soon.